Yes, hello, good day, guten Tag. Ich gehe in Englisch reden. Es tut mir leid, aber das ist besser für Ihnen und auch für mich. Thank you very much for the introduction. My name is Ronald and I'm working in Amsterdam. And as you already heard, I have to answer a question. Who is the boss in the newsroom? And the organization also told me I have about let's say 15 minutes, so that will be a pretty tough job. So I tell you, I think I'm going to give you more kind of hints about how you can make newspapers nowadays. But there's also a good part because these hints, we work that way in Amsterdam, and as you know, we exist and we are very vivid. So, and when I say we, it's of course Het Parool, and it's a daily newspaper which is 6 days a week in Holland. It's an Amsterdam-based newspaper which combines local news with national and international stories. But first, I'd like to start with a clip because I'm going to tell something about how we work and how we were able to win this beautiful prize yesterday, the European Design Award, Newspaper Award. We are very proud of that, and that's the reason I'm a little bit shining still. So if you think what's going on, I'm just very happy. I'd like to start with a clip. It's more a kind of mood film. It shows a little bit who we are and how we think. And so I have to press a button, I guess, and I hope it's going to work. They only got 60 designers already on the payroll, so there's a big difference. This is who we are.
I find myself back in the fatherland, where my past has been written in blood. I'm climbing Dutch mountains, I can see miles from here. There's blonde hair and blue eyes, a tall glass of beer. I'm back in Holland, where everything. I'm climbing the mountains of Amsterdam, right up to the great mighty peak. I'll be safe up on high without risking my ass when this shit springs a leak. A bottle of whiskey and some Dutch girls too. I'll settle down north of the rivers. It's the best place I've ever been in. It's the best place I've ever been in.
Geboren in 1941, een Amsterdamse wereldkrant. Herboren in 2016. Wij zijn Het Parool.
It's the best place I've ever been in.
It also proves, it was I think 1 year ago, that you get very old in 1 year when you're an editor-in-chief, but that's a different story. Het Parool, when I tell about how we work, we always have to explain who we are. And I tell you first, in short, our history, because Het Parool was first published on the 10th of February in 1941 as a resistance newspaper during the German occupation of the Netherlands. This was, of course, during the Second World War. The paper was preceded by a stenciled newsletter, which started even in May 1940, which is the first month of the World War. And I say this like dry facts, but you have to imagine it was very courageous to do this. And about 40, 50, 60 people died because they were killed by the Germans or the Dutch collaborators because they were printing or distributing Het Parool. After the war, Het Parool became very quickly one of the leading largest newspapers in the Netherlands, partly because much of the population appreciated it for being the most courageous resistance paper, and partly because newspapers which had collaborated with the Germans were banned from publication for a while. But, and now I make a huge step to nowadays, as we know, print is in decline. Or to be more precise, publicists and journalists live in another reality, in which news became something that you can grab for free, wherever you like and wherever you want, on websites or other digital venues. And this means that we have to convince all our audiences, our readers and future readers, that there is a huge difference between free content and quality papers. And that's point because we journalists, we have a big mouth and we know everything, we think, but we are very poor in selling ourselves. We love to complain, but it's for us not our natural habit to tell, in fact, that we do a good job. 1 year ago, Het Parool had to reinvent itself, and I don't have to explain why, because all newspapers in the world have the same development. It's going down a little bit, and circulations go down, and you have to reinvent yourself because you have to be healthy. And the persgroep, our publisher, still strongly believed in our title, and we made a plan because it was an idea to emphasize the history of the newspaper and also the character of the newspaper, which has been free, as we say, independent and without fear since 1940. So we decided to redesign the newspaper and also the website and also the other digital venues, but I emphasize I focus on print today. But we designed it, and when I say we, it's together with the team in Amsterdam with John Koning, who was there, and Floor Koop, who are art directors, Camilla Leuper, who is my colleague, and also, of course, Jacek Utko, the Polish designer from Warsaw, who can't be here today, but who did a great job. He was our, let's say, artistic consultant. And together with him, we developed these ideas we had into a new design. And in fact, it was a pretty radical redesign. And on the other hand, it was quite simple, because the idea was that newspapers should not try to look like websites or tablets. But as you know, we are a little bit disturbed by the new reality, and I think it's better when newspapers rely on their own qualities, which of course are telling stories, and they have to have a very strong graphic design. So I'll let you show you some pictures of, now this is of course how it started during the World War as an illegal newspaper, and then you can see the first real newspaper. These were different times, and you can see during some decades how the newspaper changed, and it's ending on Newsroom Charlie after the tragedy which happened, of course, in Paris. And then we made this new newspaper, which was rewarded yesterday. And when you see this paper, you see we changed a lot, but in fact it was very simple, because we decided to emphasize that the newspaper is a newspaper, or in other words, we don't make a newspaper anymore, and this is a main thing for us, that defends itself all the time. I think when I speak to colleagues in the print industry, people are always defending themselves. They're always saying, sorry, I'm not digital and I'm old-fashioned and all these kind of things, and I think that's not true. Of course, the future is digital, but print is still also very, very important. So we made a newspaper that doesn't defend itself anymore, but that's proud of itself and it's in a way self-confident. So when you take a look on the paper, you see that the masthead is, let's say, new. It's also a new font that was designed, but it looks very similar to what we had when we started, as you can see, in 1945 or even 41. So, in effect, it's coming back to your roots. Not because we are very nostalgic, because I hate nostalgia, and I think that's not a good thing, but it's good to know who you are and what you are. You also, when you see our headlines, for a pretty aggressive font, and that's to emphasize what newspapers do, deliver news, telling stories and background stories. But also, and that you can see when I go to other pictures, you see we use a lot of graphics and photography, which became much more important than it already was. And we use a lot of white space, and also we try to make different front pages, one issue pages, and then we hire very nice artists. The right picture is from Marlène Dumas, a very famous painter who lives in Amsterdam, but you can find her also in all museums of the world. So you can do different things. So the answer to the question of this short session, who is the boss in the future newsroom? Yeah, of course, journalists, they deliver news and they deliver the stories and the backgrounds, but the designers are leading. in how we present the stories. At our news desk, the designers are leading, and we all know there are no journalists existing who are come into the office and say, I make less words. If you know one, tell me. I didn't know them. I was the same. You always want more words, more space for your story. But at our news desk, we say, this is the way we present it, and there is no way to go do it the other way around. And it worked, because we won this beautiful prize, and also the world's best designed newspaper, which we are very proud of, but we also have more paying readers since, let's say, when you compare it with 2 years ago. So more readers, and research showed that readers take more time to read our articles. So when you are very seductive and you choose for design, people are really willing to read your stories. I think there is a lot of pessimism around journalism nowadays. It's like we are a little bit these kind of people, always complaining, and even, especially journalists, when they talk about media, they tend to talk in a negative way. But I think probably we are in the beginning of a new glorious era of journalism, so I'm very optimistic about it. And all we have to do is keep finding the truth. We should not forget that we have to use seductive design. Don't cut on the cost on design, because that's the other part of your story. We live in a society dominated by images. So only with good design people will continue to read the newspapers. But just in an era like we have now, I heard yesterday this beautiful German word, Lügenpresse, or fake news, the desire for draft and insights will grow more and more. So I think we all have a great task to do. And meanwhile, I'll show some more pictures for how we make newspapers. This is the second part of our newspaper, PS, which is more about, let's say, the soft part of the newspaper, not the hard news, but how we live in the city. And as you can see, this is about spring, winter, autumn, and fall. And even readers ask us whether they can buy these pictures or not. So probably it's also a new business model. And as you can see, we use a lot of white space, and it looks like a magazine. And on the other hand, it really looks like a newspaper, because we have these aggressive fonts. Yes. And Het Parool, as I told you in the beginning, is a very small newspaper. But I believe when you trust yourself, you can do a lot. And in fact, we have our focus on Amsterdam, but when you keep believing in yourself and you keep working on good journalism, you can push boundaries. That's why I also like to end with a video clip, because I started with a clip, so you could to get to know us a little bit. And this clip shows that even when you make a small newspaper in Amsterdam, and even when it is in Dutch, you can reach nationwide TV in the United States. It's a little bit also a kind of joke, but it was on TV last Friday, and I woke up that morning and people text me and said, oh, your newspaper was on CBS TV, and I thought, why? Because we're writing in Dutch. But I think because we won these prizes, people are noticing the paper. So I like to end with this video clip, and all I like to say, keep finding the truth, keep up the good work. I really believe in our future, and I think after these 2 days, it's even getting better than I already did. I thank you very much for your presence here, and whenever you're in Amsterdam, send an email. You're always welcome to visit our newsroom. Thank you very much.
Oh. It does feel like the aftertime.
So, vielleicht können wir noch die zurück zu... yeah, and there's the clip I like to show. I think I have to press.
It does feel like the after times, and Americans aren't the only ones who are shocked about the Comey firing. So is the rest of the world. A British paper called Comey's firing a brazen attack on the rule of law. An Israeli paper described Trump as a president who doesn't play by any rules. And a headline in the Netherlands read, Vries voor doofpot na onslag FBI topman. Now, I do not speak Dutch, but I think I know who the doofpot is.
What's that doofpot?
Alsjeblieft. Oh, my Dutch.